The space station floated in silence above a quiet corner of the galaxy. Most of its crew had already gone to their sleeping quarters, but one human stayed awake. He was a researcher, the kind of man who often forgot time when he worked. His small desk was covered with glowing screens, scattered notes, and half-empty cups of cold coffee. The lights in the hallway were dim, and the hum of the machines was the only sound. He rubbed his tired eyes and leaned back in his chair. Something about the silence felt strange tonight. It was heavier, sharper, as if the air itself was watching him. At first, he ignored it. He told himself it was just fatigue. But then, he felt a presence. Someone was standing behind him. His heartbeat quickened. Slowly, he turned around. What he saw froze him in place. A girl stood near the door. She didn't look like anyone from the crew. Her skin seemed to hold a soft glow, almost like moonlight. Her hair fell around her shoulders, shimmering faintly, as if it caught light that wasn't there. But it was her eyes that unsettled him the most, bright, unblinking, and almost too sharp, as if they could see through him. She said nothing. She only watched him, her lips curved in the faintest trace of a smile. The man opened his mouth, but no words came. His throat felt dry. He tried again. Who are you?" His voice cracked, breaking the silence. The girl tilted her head slightly, like she was studying an insect trapped under glass. She didn't move closer, but somehow he felt her presence pressing into his mind. He shivered. Something was wrong. This wasn't just a stranger sneaking into the station. This was something else. He stood up quickly, knocking over one of his cups. The sound echoed too loud in the still room. His hands trembled as he pressed them against the desk, trying to ground himself. "This section is restricted," he said, his voice unsteady. "You shouldn't be here." Still, no reply. Her silence was worse than an answer. The human swallowed hard. He had seen many things in his time among the stars, but nothing like this. Her expression never changed, but her eyes. Those eyes felt as if they were peeling away every layer of his mind. Then, without a single word, he understood she wasn't looking at him. She was looking inside him. His chest tightened. Panic rushed through him. His thoughts became louder in his own head, as though they were no longer private. Every memory, every mistake, every shameful secret he thought he had buried suddenly felt exposed. He wanted to shout, to run, to demand answers, but his body betrayed him. He was frozen where he stood. Finally, after what felt like endless minutes, she spoke. Her voice was soft, melodic, but carried a strange weight. "So, this is what you think about." The man's face turned pale. He knew exactly what she meant. In that moment before she appeared, his mind had wandered. Alone and tired, his thoughts had slipped into places he would never share out loud, messy, human, embarrassing. And now, this alien girl, had seen it all. I didn't mean," he stammered, words tumbling out too fast. His cheeks burned with shame. "I'm sorry. I didn't." She didn't let him finish. Her lips curved again, a slow, knowing smirk. The look in her eyes wasn't anger. It wasn't even disappointment. It was amusement. The man's chest tightened even more. Was she mocking him? Or was she simply entertained by his weakness? He stepped back, but she didn't follow. She didn't need to. Her gaze kept him pinned in place like chains. The room seemed smaller, the air heavier. Every second stretched too long. He whispered, more to himself than to her, "This can't be real." But it was real. Too real. The girl finally took a step forward, slow and graceful. Her movement was almost soundless, her feet barely touching the floor. Her presence was overwhelming, not because she raised her voice or showed aggression, but because she didn't need to. Her confidence was effortless, like someone who already knew the outcome of the game. The man forced himself to breathe, to steady his voice. "Why are you here?" he asked, though the question sounded weak even to his own ears. Her eyes glowed faintly as she answered, "To see what hides inside the human mind." He felt a chill crawl up his spine. This wasn't an accident. She wasn't lost or wandering. She had come here with purpose. And that purpose was him. For the first time, the human realized the danger. This wasn't just about one embarrassing thought. If she could read his mind so easily, what else could she uncover? His research? The station's secrets? Plans that should never leave human hands? Fear and shame battled inside him, and he didn't know which one would break him first. But she only stood there, smirk still lingering, as if waiting to see how far his thoughts would run before he collapsed under the weight of them. The silence stretched again. The tension grew heavier. And deep inside, the man knew this was only the beginning. The human's breath came fast, each inhale shaky and uneven. His heart thudded so loudly in his chest that he was sure she could hear it. But the truth was worse. She didn't need to hear it. She already knew. The alien girl's eyes gleamed faintly, like twin lanterns in the dark room. She tilted her head again, a strange mixture of curiosity and mischief in her gaze. Then she spoke, and her words made his blood run cold. "You imagine things you would never dare say aloud," she murmured, almost lazily. "Lonely thoughts. Shameful thoughts. Thoughts you think belong only to you. But they don't. They are open. I see them." The man's knees nearly buckled. She wasn't guessing. She was repeating the exact feelings he had moments ago. Feelings he had buried, pushed deep into the quiet corners of his mind, hoping no one would ever touch them. Yet she had plucked them out as easily as one might pick a flower. He stammered, "Stop, please. Just stop." His voice cracked with desperation. But the girl only smirked again. That same unsettling curve of her lips, like she was watching a child squirm. She stepped closer, and the air seemed to vibrate with her presence. "You are embarrassed," she said softly. "Embarrassed of your own mind." The human clenched his fists. He wanted to argue, to deny, but every word he thought formed too late. She was already hearing it. He was trapped in the worst prison imaginable, his own head. For the first time in his life, he understood what true vulnerability was. Weapons, walls, locked doors, none of these could protect him here. She had invaded the last safe place he had, and she walked through it as if it belonged to her. His face turned red with shame. "I didn't ask you to come here. I didn't ask you to." She cut him off, her tone sharp, almost playful. "You think asking matters? You humans believe your thoughts are private. But they are not. They leak. They spill everywhere. And to me, they are loud." Her words struck like knives. Loud. That meant every flicker of his mind, every flickering fantasy, every guilty memory. It was all broadcast to her like a glowing screen. He covered his head with his hands, as if that could shield him. "This isn't fair," he whispered. The girl laughed quietly. Not cruelly, not kindly, just amused. "Fair? You think the universe is fair? No, human. The universe is curious. And so am I." The sound of her laughter sent another shiver down his spine. It wasn't mocking, but it wasn't human either. It was alien in the truest sense, beautiful, strange, and terrifying. He wanted to scream, to shout at her to get out of his mind, but fear held him still. What if anger only made things worse? So instead, he tried something else. He lowered his hands slowly, forced himself to breathe, and spoke with as much calm as he could gather. "If you can hear everything I think, then you know I don't mean you harm." The girl's smirk faded, just a little, replaced by curiosity. She leaned closer, her glowing eyes inches from his face. "Yes," she whispered. "I know. But I also know you fear me. And fear makes humans dangerous." The human's throat tightened. She was right. Even now, part of him wanted to run, to fight, to push her away. And she saw that too. "I don't want to hurt you," he said quickly. "I'm just scared. You came without warning. You shouldn't be here. She studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she walked past him and touched the edge of his desk. Her fingers glided over the scattered notes and screens, her expression unreadable. Humans write their thoughts on paper, she said quietly. Strange. As if hiding them in symbols makes them safe. But even here, she tapped one of his notes lightly with her finger. I can already see what you meant. The human felt exposed all over again. Every word, every calculation, every private line of research, it was all as meaningless as glass to her. She didn't need to read his writing. She could read him. His fear deepened into something else, helplessness. She wasn't just stronger than him. She was untouchable. Still, a question burned inside him. He swallowed hard and asked, Why me? Out of all the humans here. Why did you come to me? The alien girl turned back to him, her smirk returning, but softer this time. Because your thoughts are interesting, messy, loud. They amuse me. The human's stomach twisted. Was he just a toy to her? Something to be studied, mocked, and discarded? Yet deep down, another thought stirred, a dangerous thought. If she had chosen him, if she found him worth her time, then maybe he wasn't as insignificant as he believed. He tried to push that thought away before she could see it. But the flicker of her smile told him she already had. She stepped back, letting the silence stretch again. The air felt heavy, charged with something he couldn't name. Finally she spoke, her voice low and calm. Your apology means nothing, human. Because I already know the truth. You can hide your words, but not your mind. The man swallowed hard. He had apologized once, tried to explain himself, tried to sound harmless. None of it mattered. His thoughts were louder than his speech, and as she smirked at him once again, he realized something terrifying. This wasn't just an encounter. This was the beginning of a test he didn't know how to pass. The human stood frozen, his chest rising and falling as if every breath weighed 100 pounds. The alien girl's smirk had not faded. If anything, it grew sharper the more he tried to keep his composure. She didn't need his words. She already had his thoughts. That knowledge made his mouth dry and his mind restless. He lowered his eyes, unable to meet her gaze. Shame pressed on him like a physical force. Every private image, every fleeting thought that had passed through his mind, had already been laid bare. There was no wall left to hide behind. Finally he spoke, his voice trembling. I'm sorry. The words felt weak, almost useless, but they were all he had. I didn't mean to think that way. I didn't mean for you to. His throat tightened, and he stopped himself. What could he even say? How do you apologize for something you couldn't control? The girl tilted her head, her glowing eyes locked on him. Her silence was worse than scolding. Silence meant she was inside his head again, watching the panic unfold like a play. You apologize, she said at last, her tone soft but edged with amusement. But not because you regret the thought. You apologize because I saw it. His head jerked up. That's not true. The words came out too fast, too defensive. She raised an eyebrow, the faint smirk never leaving her face. It is true. Humans do not apologize for what they think. They apologize for being caught. The man's face burned with shame. Was she right? Was his apology nothing more than desperation, a way to cover himself in dignity he no longer had? He tried to explain himself again. I didn't want you to feel disrespected. I didn't mean any harm. The alien girl's smirk widened slightly. She stepped closer, her movements slow and deliberate. Your mind is not dangerous because of harm. It is dangerous because of honesty. Humans think things they would never dare say. And yet, those hidden thoughts reveal more truth than words ever could. Her words cut deeper than any blade. He felt naked in front of her, not just physically but in spirit. He had always believed that thoughts were safe, a secret place no one could enter. But now, even that sanctuary had been stolen. Desperate to salvage something, anything, he tried again. "I am sorry. If I could take it back, I would." The alien girl studied him for a long moment, her glowing eyes unreadable. Then she chuckled softly. The sound was not cruel, but it wasn't forgiving either. It was the laugh of someone who found amusement in the fragility of another being. "You humans say sorry so easily," she murmured, "as if a word can erase what is already done. But your thoughts remain. They echo. They leave marks." The man's heart sank. He wasn't sure what frightened him more, that she could see into his mind, or that she could judge him by what she found there. He took a step back, pressing against the cold wall behind him. "What do you want from me?" he whispered. Her smirk softened, almost like a smile, but one that carried secrets he could not hope to understand. "I want to know why your kind hides from itself. Why do you bury your truth? Why do you fear your own mind?" The question struck him harder than any accusation. Why, indeed? He had no answer. Humans hid things because they had to, because society demanded masks, because honesty could hurt, because weakness could destroy. But how could he explain that to her? He struggled, words failing him. We're complicated," he managed. "Our minds are messy. Sometimes we think things we don't mean. Sometimes we imagine things we would never do. That doesn't make us evil. It just makes us human." The alien girl's eyes narrowed slightly, as if weighing his words. Then she smirked again, a spark of intrigue dancing across her face. "Messy," she repeated. "Yes, that is the word. Humans are messy. But perhaps interesting." Her tone made his skin crawl. He couldn't tell if she was complimenting him or mocking him. Still, a small flicker of relief touched his chest. She wasn't angry. She wasn't punishing him. She was entertained. But that flicker of relief quickly turned to fear again. Because if she was entertained, then he was nothing more than her game. The human swallowed hard and tried once more, his voice steadier now. "I don't know what you want me to say. But if I offended you, if my thoughts were wrong, then I am sorry, truly." For the first time her smirk faded into something else. Not anger. Not kindness. Something colder. Something unreadable. She leaned in close, her eyes burning like stars. "Your apology means nothing to me. I don't want your words. I want your mind. That is where the truth lives." The man's breath caught in his throat. He had apologized again and again, but she brushed it aside like dust. His words were powerless. His mind was the only currency that mattered to her, and as her smirk returned, sharper than before, he realized something terrifying. He wasn't just apologizing for himself anymore. He was apologizing for all of humanity, because if she chose to, she could expose everything. The human pressed his back against the cold wall, his heart hammering like a trapped drum. The alien girl stood before him, calm, steady, her glowing eyes fixed on him like a scientist watching an experiment unfold. The more he apologized, the more useless his words became. She didn't want his excuses. She wanted something else, something far more dangerous. Her smirk lingered, and then her voice broke the silence. "Your thoughts. They are not only about me. They wander. They reveal things you try to hide, even from yourself." The man's chest tightened. He thought quickly, his family, his past, his failures, even things about the space station he was sworn to protect. Could she see all of it? His fear grew sharper. If she could read everything, then nothing about humanity was safe. "What are you doing to me?" His voice trembled, though he tried to sound strong. The girl tilted her head, her long hair shimmering faintly in the dim light. "I am not doing anything. You are. You humans create so many thoughts. You never stop. It is noise, endless noise, and I am curious about it." The man swallowed hard. Curious. That word unsettled him. Curiosity was harmless in a child, but from her, it felt like standing under the gaze of a predator, not cruel, but unstoppable. She took another step closer. The room seemed to shrink with each movement. "Tell me," she whispered, her eyes narrowing, "why do humans think such things they never intend to do? Why imagine if you will never act? Why dream of things you will never say?" He froze. How could he explain something so human? He struggled to find words. Because sometimes imagination is the only freedom we have. Not every thought is meant to be real. Some are just shadows. Some are mistakes that never leave our heads. Her smirk deepened. Mistakes that never leave. She repeated the phrase slowly, as if tasting the words. Interesting. Among my kind, there are no shadows. Every thought has shape. Every thought has order. To think something false would be weakness. To hide it would be betrayal. The human felt a shiver crawl up his spine. Her people. They lived without the chaos of imagination, without the messy freedom of human thought. That sounded terrifying. But you, she said, lifting her hand slightly as if to touch his forehead, though she stopped just before. You drown in shadows, and yet you survive them. How strange. How dangerous. The man's pulse spiked. Dangerous. The way she said it made him wonder if she saw humanity as a threat or a puzzle. Gathering courage, he spoke again. We aren't dangerous. We're just complicated. Our minds wander. That's who we are. Her eyes glowed brighter, and for the first time, he sensed something sharp beneath her smirk, something like warning. Complicated things often break. Or destroy. Her words cut through him. For a moment, he imagined what would happen if her people judged humans unworthy. If they saw the mess of human minds as a flaw too great to forgive. Would they erase them before they became a danger? He shook his head, trying to clear the fear. If you came here to judge me, then at least let me speak for myself. Don't take every passing thought as truth. Sometimes a thought is only a storm cloud. It comes and goes. It doesn't mean we are the storm. Her smirk faded just a little, replaced by something else interest. She studied him in silence, as though replaying his words in her mind. A storm cloud, she said softly. Temporary, yet powerful. Dangerous, even if short. The man nodded quickly. Yes, that's exactly it. Thoughts can be wild, but they don't always control us. We choose which ones to follow. Her eyes narrowed, glowing faintly. And if your kind chooses wrong? The question made his stomach twist. He had no good answer. Humans did make mistakes. They did follow bad thoughts sometimes. Wars, violence, cruelty, all born from minds just as messy as his own. He looked down, ashamed. Then we suffer. We learn. That's the difference. We don't always get it right, but we try. For the first time, her smirk faded completely. She stepped back, folding her arms, her expression unreadable. The silence between them grew heavy again. The man's breath steadied just a little, though the fear didn't leave him. Something told him she wasn't done, and he was right. Suddenly, her voice sharpened. What if your thoughts are not only storms in your head? What if they become storms for us? For others? The weight of her words struck him like a blow. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. This was a test. She wasn't only studying him, she was measuring humanity. His chest tightened. He realized every word, every reaction, every flicker of thought was being weighed. If he failed, it wouldn't just be him who paid the price. It would be all of them. The silence stretched between them, heavy and sharp. The human felt the weight of her question pressing against his chest. What if human thoughts became storms for others? He had no answer. Not one that would satisfy her. His own mind was already tangled with fear, shame, and confusion. But then, the alien girl did something unexpected. Her smirk softened, and for a brief moment, the glow in her eyes flickered. She lifted her hand slowly, not toward him, but toward herself. "Perhaps you do not understand because you have only seen your world," she said quietly. "Let me show you mine." Before he could respond, a strange pulse filled the room. It was not sound, not light, but something deeper, something that struck his mind like a sudden wave. His eyes widened as images rushed into his head, faster than he could breathe. He saw skies that shimmered like liquid glass, cities that floated above oceans of light, towers built from crystal that seemed alive. He saw beings like her, tall, graceful, their glowing eyes filled with calm precision. Their movements were smooth, exact, as if every step had already been planned. The vision shifted. He saw how they lived, thoughts flowing between them without words, perfect clarity, no secrets, no confusion. There were no lies, no masks, no shame. Every idea was shared, every mind connected. The human gasped, gripping the edge of his desk. It was beautiful. Too beautiful. But also terrifying. When the vision faded, he found himself trembling. His breath came in shallow bursts, his heart pounding. You live like that? No secrets? No. Private thoughts? The alien girl's smirk returned, but it was softer now, almost wistful. Yes, to us, hiding is weakness. Truth binds us together. That is why we survive. That is why we do not destroy ourselves. The man lowered his head. Her words cut deep. Compared to her people, humans must look like broken machines. Always clashing, always hiding, always pretending. But he forced himself to speak. That sounds perfect, but also empty. Her eyes narrowed. Empty? He nodded, though his voice shook. Yes, if you have no secrets, then you have no mystery. No imagination. No private dreams. Don't you ever long for that? The girl stared at him, her smirk fading into something colder. Mystery creates fear. Dreams create lies. Your people cling to shadows and call it freedom. We call it chaos. Her words were sharp, but the man caught something beneath them. A flicker in her tone, a tiny hesitation. It was small, but it was there. You felt it, haven't you? He asked carefully. Loneliness. Her eyes widened slightly, though her face remained calm. Loneliness does not exist for us. He stepped forward, his fear momentarily forgotten. Yes, it does. I saw it in your vision. You share everything with your people, but that means nothing is yours alone. You don't know what it feels like to keep something just for yourself. To dream about something only you can see. That's why you're curious about us. That's why you're here. For the first time, the alien girl didn't smirk. She didn't laugh. She simply looked at him, her glowing eyes flickering faintly as if his words unsettled her. The silence was thick, charged with unspoken meaning. Finally, she said, her voice lower than before, perhaps. Or perhaps I am here to see if humans are too dangerous to exist. The human's stomach dropped. He had pushed too far, and now the weight of her words crashed down on him. Too dangerous to exist. He shook his head quickly. No, we're not perfect, but we're not hopeless either. Yes, our thoughts are messy. Yes, we hide things. But that's because we're still learning. Still growing. Doesn't that make us worth saving? Doesn't that make us alive? Her expression remained unreadable. She studied him with the quiet patience of someone measuring every breath, every word. Then, slowly, her lips curved again, not into the playful smirk he had grown used to, but into something softer, more mysterious. You defend your people with passion, she said. Even when your mind betrays you, your words try to protect them. That is unusual. His chest rose and fell heavily. It's not unusual. It's human. Her smirk deepened, and the glow in her eyes flickered once more, this time warmer. But just as quickly, it vanished, replaced by that same cold amusement. "Perhaps," she said. "Or perhaps it is just another shadow." The human stood silent, his heart torn between hope and fear. He had glimpsed her world, and she had glimpsed his. Two cultures, so different, so distant, yet colliding in this fragile space between them. And as her gaze lingered on him, sharp and knowing, he understood one thing clearly: this was no ordinary encounter. It was a clash of worlds, a test of who would bend and who would break. The room felt smaller now, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The human stood stiff, his pulse racing, while the alien girl remained calm, unshaken, her glowing eyes never leaving him. He realized something then every second, every reaction, every flicker of thought inside his head. She was watching. Not just watching, measuring, judging. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was a test. The alien girl finally broke the silence. "Your words defend your people. But words are soft. Thoughts are sharp. I see both. And they do not always match." The man swallowed hard. He wanted to argue, but she was right. Even now, as he tried to appear strong, his thoughts betrayed him: fear, doubt, and flashes of what would happen if she decided humans weren't worth keeping. She smirked faintly, as if hearing those exact fears. "You wonder if I am judge or executioner?" "Perhaps both." His heart nearly stopped. He tried to steady himself, but sweat beaded at his forehead. "If this is a test," he said slowly, "then tell me the rules." Her eyes glowed brighter, but her voice stayed calm. "There are no rules. Only truth. I watch, I weigh, and I decide." The human's chest tightened. No rules meant no safety, no path to success. Every thought could save him or doom him. He forced himself to breathe slowly. If she wanted truth, then maybe hiding his fear was useless. She would see it anyway. "You scare me," he admitted quietly. "Not because you're stronger, but because you can see everything I try to hide. That makes me powerless. But I'm still here. I haven't run. I haven't lied. Isn't that something?" The alien girl tilted her head. Her smirk wavered, just slightly. "You believe courage is staying while afraid?" "Yes," he said quickly. "Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about facing fear and still choosing to stand." Her gaze sharpened. For a long moment, she said nothing, but her silence was louder than words. He could feel her peeling through his thoughts again, checking if his conviction was real or just another mask. Finally, she whispered, "Perhaps." But before he could breathe in relief, she stepped closer, so close he could feel the strange warmth radiating from her. Her voice lowered. "Then let us test this courage." The man froze. "Test? How?" The alien girl raised her hand slightly. The glow from her eyes spread into her palm, forming a faint shimmer like liquid light. "I will open your mind further, deeper. I will see everything, not only surface storms. I will reach where even you do not look. If you truly believe in your words, then you will not resist." His blood turned cold. Already she had made him feel exposed beyond reason, and now she wanted more: everything. His darkest memories, his deepest regrets, even thoughts he never admitted to himself. His instinct screamed no. His mind raced with the horror of what she might find. But another voice inside him whispered, "This is the test. If you resist, you fail." He looked at her hand, glowing softly like a flame. "And if I don't let you?" Her smirk returned, sharp and playful, but her words carried weight. "Then I already know my answer." The man's throat went dry. This wasn't about just him. He knew it now with painful clarity. She was testing humanity through him. If he failed, his entire species could be condemned. He clenched his fists, his body trembling. Then slowly he nodded. "Do it." Her smirk widened, but there was something else behind it now: satisfaction. Approval, maybe. She stepped forward, and her glowing hand hovered just above his forehead. The instant she touched him, his world shattered. He felt her invade deeper than before, diving past his conscious thoughts into the hidden corners of his mind. Memories flashed like broken glass, childhood laughter, mistakes he never forgave himself for, faces he had lost, choices that haunted him. Shame and guilt bled through him, raw and sharp. He gasped, clutching his chest, but she didn't stop. Her presence cut deeper, into places he had never dared to look. He wanted to scream, but no sound came. Finally, she spoke inside his mind, her voice echoing everywhere at once. You fear weakness. You fear being forgotten. You fear your own thoughts more than you fear me. Tears stung his eyes. She was right. His whole life, he had hidden behind masks, pretending to be stronger than he felt. And now she was tearing those masks apart. But through the pain, he forced himself to think, to push one message outward. Yes, I am afraid. But fear doesn't control me. It makes me human. Her presence paused. The pressure in his head eased just slightly. For the first time, he felt surprise ripple through her. Then her voice returned, softer now, messy, broken, afraid, and yet still standing. The connection snapped, and he stumbled back, gasping for air, drenched in sweat. His legs nearly gave out, but he stayed upright, clutching the desk for support. The alien girl lowered her hand, her smirk returning. But this time, it was different. Not mocking, not cruel, almost approving. You did not resist, she said quietly. You let me see. That is rare. The man wiped his forehead, his chest heaving. Was that enough for your test? Her glowing eyes narrowed, her smirk curving into something sharper. Enough to decide the final one. The man's stomach dropped. Final one. The test wasn't over. It was only leading to something greater. And as she turned away, her faint laughter filling the silent room, he realized the truth. Whatever came next would decide not only his fate, but the fate of all humanity. The human's chest rose and fell in sharp breaths. Sweat clung to his skin, and his mind still throbbed from the invasion. He had faced the alien girl's test, let her tear through his memories, his secrets, his deepest fears, and he was still standing. Barely, but standing. She stood across from him, calm and silent, her glowing eyes steady. The faint smirk on her lips had returned, but it was different now. Not playful, not cruel. Something deeper. Something he couldn't name. The silence pressed down on him until he finally whispered, "Did I pass?" The alien girl tilted her head. Her long hair shimmered faintly in the dim light as she studied him like a puzzle, piece that almost fit but not quite. There are no passes, she said softly. There are only truths. The man's throat tightened. And what truth did you find? She stepped closer, her footsteps silent. That humans are not weak because they fear. They are strong because they continue even when afraid. That is different, strange, dangerous. His stomach twisted at the word dangerous. Every time she spoke it, he wondered if it meant survival or destruction. Then what happens now? He asked, his voice unsteady. The girl's smirk widened, her eyes glowing brighter. Now, I decide if your storm is worth watching. His chest tightened. My storm? She leaned in, her face inches from his, her voice low. Your thoughts, your fears, your dreams. They are wild, messy, and loud. But they are alive. I see in you what my people cannot feel. Chaos that breathes. Shadows that burn. Perhaps. She paused, her smirk deepening. Perhaps humanity's storms are not a weakness, but a power. The man's breath caught. For the first time, her words didn't sound like judgment. They sounded almost like admiration. But just as hope flickered in his chest, her tone shifted again, colder. Or perhaps your storms will consume you, and everyone else with you. The hope inside him cracked. He tried to speak, to defend humanity again, but she raised her hand slightly, silencing him without a word. "You do not need to explain," she said. "I already know. Your apology meant nothing. Your defenses meant little. But your truth, that was real. And that is what I wanted." His body trembled. If this was the end, he needed to know. "So, what will you do with that truth?" For the first time, she smiled, not a smirk, not amusement, but a real smile, faint and sharp. "I will carry it back. I will show them what I saw in you." And then, she let the sentence hang in the air like a blade. His heart raced. And then, her smile shifted back into that familiar smirk, the one that had haunted him since the moment she appeared. She leaned close, her eyes glowing like fire. "And then we will meet again." The human's chest tightened. He wanted to ask when, where, how. But before he could, the air around her shimmered. Her form began to blur, her edges fading like smoke. "Wait!" he cried, stepping forward. "You can't just leave like this." But she only smirked, her voice echoing faintly as her body dissolved into light. "Your thoughts reveal more than your words ever could. I do not need more. For now." And with that, she vanished. The room fell silent, empty again. The hum of the machines returned, the quiet sound of the station reclaiming the air. But everything felt different. He felt different. The man staggered back, gripping the edge of the desk for balance. His reflection stared at him from the darkened screen, sweat-drenched, pale, eyes wide with something that was not only fear, but awe. He whispered to himself, voice shaking, "She's going to tell them. She's going to tell all of them." And then the weight of it struck him. He hadn't just represented himself. He had represented his entire species. Every thought she saw, every fear she uncovered, would be judged not just by her, but by her people. He sank into his chair, burying his face in his hands. He had no idea if he had saved humanity or doomed it, but deep inside, through the haze of fear, one image refused to leave him. That final smirk. That strange, knowing look in her eyes. It wasn't the look of someone who wanted to destroy. It wasn't the look of someone who pitied. It was the look of someone who had found something she didn't expect and wasn't done with it. He exhaled shakily, staring into the empty room. He knew the truth now. This was not the end. It was only the beginning.